A new chapter set to unfold in New Zealand as we race in Taupo for the very first time with Supercars.
Hey, yo, who that be?
It's Heimgartner who's got a third of a second over Brown into turn one.
I'm too slick, I'm too quick and nimble.
Heimgartner in the R&J Batteries Camaro. His second Supercar victory. Chalk up one for the Kiwis.
Yes, he took the first win in Supercars' return to New Zealand last year, and he's been good enough to join us before the trip back. Andre Heimgartner, welcome back to the driver's seat. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks.
Now, Andre, last year, it must have been mixed emotions because going back to New Zealand, but also at the same time, a different track from Pukekohe. I mean, we've spoken here on the driver's seat before just how much Puke meant as to just not just Supercars fans, but Kiwis in general, how much of a spiritual sort of home it is for the sport. But what was it like going to Taupo for the first time and actually getting that first win?
Yeah, it's I guess new beginnings, new environment. I think, for us Kiwis, we're excited in a way because we got to showcase a different part of New Zealand, and a lot of people just saw Auckland and that Pukekohe area, which is great, but the real New Zealand sort of and the outdoors area starts the further south you go. So it was pretty cool to showcase that, and it's a beautiful part of the world down there, and of course the track. If you're a Kiwi, you've raced there a lot. So, it's pretty awesome as far as that goes also.
You've got a little Kiwi mafia that's heading down there now with Ryan Wood, Richie Stanaway, Matty Payne, of course, yourself, Jackson Evans. Have you got is there like a bet amongst you of maybe who can get first place this time around?
Nah, nothing like that. But it was funny last time. We started last year really struggling with our car, and I went to New Zealand before the round to do some media, and Greg Murphy was interviewing me in front of a whole lot of people, and they're like, "Oh, how do you think you'll go?" Da, da, da. Obviously, the first couple of rounds have been really poor for you guys, and I said, "Look, I've qualified last." And then gone to the next race meeting and won the next race. So I wouldn't put anything past me. And then that's exactly what happened. I went and won the next race. So it's, it can throw up anything, the wild weather in New Zealand. Although I hope it's sunny and beautiful weather, often it throws up some challenges. So, it's always a good round as far as that goes.
Last year, we really had, because for like you sort of said, a lot of the Kiwi drivers know what to expect, but for a handful of the main game sort of regulars and, taking into, let's just completely discount what happened to poor Tim Slade at the start of race one last year. But, you had the chaotic rain, you had all this and that. How do you sort of prepare for a track like that can be so unpredictable?
I guess you just have to sort of play it as it goes and not overthink it. I think in New Zealand, there's so much weather about, and it comes and goes and changes, and the weather forecasts often aren't right. So it's mainly just about what's facing right, dealing with what's facing right in front of you, and not getting too carried away or too far down the track or anything like that. So last year it was raining going into the shootout, and that was pretty wild because we hadn't done any wet laps, and we just had to figure it out. Obviously worked out pretty well for us, qualified fourth. It's like that sort of adaptability, I guess, that you're going to need to have.
How much of last year's data can you sort of go through with your engineer, Tony Woodward, and just sort of, is there anything that you could sort of take through it, or you have to go in fresh completely, especially with like changes to the car since the last year?
Our philosophy is a bit different. We've come a long way since then. We were really struggling last year, so we've turned it around a bit, changed a few things, but you always, have that reference point. Last year, our race car was quite good last year in the race, but our qualifying car wasn't, the best. But there's definitely data, vision, all sorts of stuff you look at last year. Like anytime you have a reference like that, you definitely take everything into account.
So let's not shy away from this, but all of the BJR cars, in fact, if anyone that looks back after the AGP didn't really have a great round unless you were Matt Stone Racing or in a Red Bull car, but it must be hard to sort of try and ride a wave of momentum into a track that that you can do well at, but at the same time you don't really have, like you sort of said, you got a great quali car but might not have a great race car. So what's the sort of mindset there, especially since you've got 4 cars in that garage, all 4 are kind of not having that quali speed that, the guys up the real pointy end are? Like, what's the mindset there?
Yeah, well, I think, you firstly got to worry about your own boat before you worry about other people's. So, as far as how we're going at the moment, it's a massive step forward from where we were at the start of last year. At the AGP, we were the last four cars almost every race, and that was where our speed legitimately was, and we're really stuck. And so now, looking at the first two rounds, I've qualified fifth, fourth, eighth, like quite decent positions considering. So it's like, okay, well, we're not where we need to be exactly, right? But we're heading in the right direction, and there's some light at the end of the tunnel. If we, line everything up, I do a good job, we nail everything, we can sort of be right up the front, pushing to hopefully get a trophy. So that's a really good step forward. So there is momentum on our side. Like, it's not exactly where we want to be ultimately, but yeah, it's I think we got good momentum, and we got good reference from last year. And the last 2 years at Taupo, I've finished third and second for the weekend overall for the Jason Richards Trophy. So I came very, very close the last 2 years. So the natural progression hopefully is to is to win the thing this year. So yeah, it's I think hopefully everything sort of lines up and we can get it done.
You've actually had quite strong qualifying this year. I mean, let's and thankfully you must have been one of the few people that were glad that race four got rained out at the AG.
Yeah.
But you actually, like you sort of said, you've had a front row start at the AGP. You qualified inside the top 10 at SMP. So really, the car speed is there. It's just sort of translating it to race to race pace. But have you found that? I'm trying to think of the delicate way to put this, but have you found that
Yeah.
a bit more of biffo on the track kind of affects your psyche when you go into a race, knowing like hang on a second, what's the actual rule set here? What can I get away with? What can I not get away with? What can others get
Yeah.
away with? If it's outcome based, like all of this, does it play in your mind, regardless of where you start on the grid?
Not necessarily. No, I think there's certain drivers that take that approach. I think some of the old guys, you race them, generally speaking, they're pretty good. But no, it's not really. It's just the level's been turned up a little bit. But I think also the AGP track lends itself to that because it's wide corners, lots of runoff. So people are always gonna, you know, um, take the piss to some extent with track limits, stuff like that. So it just lends itself to that kind of racing. But of course, when we go to a track where there's just white lines and gravel traps, people will start thinking twice again if they'll put a move on, if they'll do that. So I think it'll still be more aggressive than we've seen before, but definitely I think more toned down than AGP. But it doesn't really play in your mind too much. I guess in our sport, everyone's got an ego. So if you get biffed, you want to biff back. So it's sort of a natural thing in many respects.
You've got a bit similar to the AGP. I mean, you got back-to-back races on the Saturday, then the longer one on the Sunday. How much of are you just going to take it race by race, or on that first one on the Saturday, which is just the 120 Ks? Will you be thinking to yourself like, oh, geez, there's not much time to turn around in case I do, like someone does fence me, or will you have the elbows out a little bit?
No, our guys are pretty fast with fixing the car. So, bar sort of riding it off, I think you're pretty good to make the next race. So, yeah, look, it's something where you just do it race by race. You try and get the best result you can, and then move on to the next one. But yeah, it's an awesome weekend, and there's lots of racing now. We obviously do with the new formats and stuff. So it's going to be exciting.
We mentioned just briefly at the top, like obviously this is for the Jason Richards Memorial Trophy, and last year it was just agonizingly close to get it too. And we all thought too, sometimes like sport gives you some fairy tales, and the fact that a BJR driver, a Kiwi driver, won the first race at Taupo just sort of seemed to be great. But as you sort of mentioned, it just got out of your grasp there. Is that sort of like a championship within the championship where you've got this nice goal within a weekend where it's like, okay, look, we've got a solid thing to aim for, so let's just do that and tick that off and walk home with that trophy?
Yeah. It obviously means a lot to our team. So for people that don't know, Jason Richards drove for BJR. At the end of his career, as he was unfortunately dealing with his illness, and then his car was number 8 as well, which is my number.
Mm.
So there's a lot of deep rooted emotion associated with it. Like when I won the race last year, and then Brad Brad Jones, the owner of the team, was in tears, and then going into Sunday, you could just feel the tension and everyone just really digging deep, for something more than just, I guess, racing. When you have someone that was such an integral part of our team, pass. It was obviously before my time, but everyone there digs a little bit deeper, and there's something special about it. So, yeah, I think if we were able to win that, that's obviously our only goal going there. And I think, the team, everyone would just be ruined. It'd be obviously something that he's tried to win for ages. I think Jason Bright went on the first year at Pukekohe, which was really, really emotional. So, and we've come close so many times, as we said. So, yeah, it'd be great to do it in car aid, and just one of those things, I guess, that's meant to be too.
Yeah, well, we've got a bit of time before we head to Taupo, so hopefully that'll be something that we can all work towards. Before I let you go, Andre, I want to have a quick word to you about the Enduros, because you got Declan Fraser, your co-driver again this year, and a bit of a shake-up, obviously, starting off at the Bend rather than Sandown for the Bathurst warm-up. This is a track that you're actually quite familiar with. You had your first race win there, you got a couple of podiums there as well. How much of a difference will the prep for Bathurst be at a different track like the Bend compared to what you're so used to at Sandown? And there's such different tracks as well. I mean, I don't know what do you know which circuit of the Bend they're going to use? Is it just the stock standard, or
yeah, it'd just be the stocks. The stock standard one. So, yeah, it's obviously very different. I don't know how I feel about it. I do like the Sandown 500, and as far as that goes, but yeah, it's different. We don't know what's going to happen. It's obviously a very different circuit. The last few years, I haven't gone amazingly there, so I'm unsure if I'm happy or sad to be doing more racing there. But look, I think it's a great facility. We don't know what endurance race there will look like, to be honest, but hopefully it's good. Hopefully there's some tire dig, some action, and it's a good race. That's all we can ask for. It won't really change how we prepare for Bathurst. It might be a slightly more challenging track for our co-drivers, but apart from that, no, it's pretty sort of straightforward and same as usual for Bathurst.
Yeah, well, we've got world-class drivers, a world-class track, and it's just a great mix in itself. But Andre, you're very, very generous with your time this morning, mate. So I really, really appreciate you joining us here on the driver's seat. Enjoy this little break that you have before Taupo. Although being a dad of two young kids, I'm sure there's not too much of a break happening for you.
They're screaming in the other room. So,
but all the best, mate, and thanks so much for joining us. And go well in New Zealand.
Awesome, thanks, mate. Thanks.